Hello and welcome to the G3 Plus podcast. My guest today is Stuart Hunter, Managing Director of Clarion Gaming. Stuart, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Lewis. Good to see you again. Can't believe it's that time of year again.
Well, it's always good to speak to you this time of year, and I'm not talking about Christmas or New Year either. We're just weeks away from Ice Barcelona, and I was thinking, as of now, how prepared are you for this event as you kind of normally would be for London? You've done that show, multiple times. I just wondered what preparations are you still having to put together? Is everything sorted? Is everything done? And what have been the key differences that you'd say between London and Barcelona?
Oh, yeah, you caught us right in the eye of the storm on that one, Lewis, in the sense that organising an event the size and scale of ICE, not just for us, but for all our customers as well, is obviously a huge operation because just the sheer size, the complexity. Those of your guests that frequent ICE know that when you see some of the level of installations that our customers produce, this is months and months of planning and very careful execution. And all the big major stands need to go through a complex stand design sign off as if you would do through building regulations and all of that level of detail. And I think with London, ourselves and our customers included have got used to a little bit of muscle memory of working within the venue with same contractors. So I think as much as it's a huge operation, everyone was sort of match fit for that. I think going to Barcelona, we've obviously changed pretty much everything in many respects. And we all knew collectively it was going to be a challenge. Moving a show the size and scale of ICE and doing it well was always going to be a huge challenge, but a challenge that clearly we are up for as an organizer, and clearly our customers are up for as well. So yeah, we've all been on this journey together, really. And at this point, I would say that all of the kind of the big ticket stuff is in a very, very strong position. So everyone's sleeping quite well at night, but there is huge amounts left to do, as there would be in any kind of 6-week out cycle from the show. But yeah, just a huge amounts of learning that we've had through working with a new venue, working through many new teams, working through the city, working through different halls. So we've changed everything. So I don't think it'll ever be as hard as this again for everyone involved. But no, I think in fact, I'm certain that the end result when we get there will be very satisfying because of extra level of work that, like I said, both us as Clarion and also our customers are going through. I know we've brought over a lot of the contractor base from London for that muscle memory, as I mentioned, but also we're working with a lot of new local contractors that work on some of the big trade shows in Barcelona because they know the venue intimately, which is great. From a Clarion perspective, we've increased our resource dramatically this year to get Barcelona over the line. We've got people living in Barcelona that we've moved over there from the London office. So, our whole migration strategy has been almost as big a project as is running our events process anyway. So yeah, it's been like nothing I've been involved in before, but it's been thrilling and really exciting. Like I said, I'm really confident that it'll definitely all be worth it when we get there.
Look forward to that. ICE 2024 and the IGB affiliates both smashed records for visitor attendance. I think there were over 50,000 for that show altogether. Is this your target for Barcelona, or is the bar higher?
The bar is higher, and that's not necessarily driven by Barcelona per se. It's driven by our own ambition as an organizer and our customers' ambition, and really what we hear from the ambition of the wider gaming industry. I think what we looked at more of versus volume was what are those customer groups, or where's that risk in the customer profile that we think by migrating the event from London to Barcelona is going to look like, and how do we try and address that? But then equally, where are those opportunities where we're going to secure more buyers for our customers? That really is our job as the organizer, as well as bringing the tapestry together. It's about making sure we're delivering more opportunities for our customers, more opportunities for connections and for business. So really, are we looking for more attendees? Yes, absolutely. We sort of position the events to be about 55,000, which is a 5,000 attendee increase on the 24 show of London, which again was its own record breaker. And I we have to remind ourselves as well that it wasn't too long ago that the show was pretty much sat in and around that 35,000 attendance. But really, since COVID, it's driven on to a whole new level. And I'm proud of the fact that all of our attendance is audited. So when we say there's 55,000 people, we mean it. And I don't think everyone does that in the events industry. So we're proud of that. And I think for the London show, that delivered over 100,000, almost 100,000 visits. So, the amount of business that's happening with all those people is super exciting. But yeah, going back to the focus for us was really around that UK attendance, making sure we don't lose the UK attendance, because it's been a strong component part, obviously, all throughout ICE's history. And actually, at the moment, it's still the strongest level of registration for the show, which is absolutely where we hoped it would be. And then the flip side would be looking at those opportunities. We knew there was going to be an opportunity to grow our Spanish customer base, also the wider European customer base, making it a little bit easier for them to get in versus London now. And then also some of those strategic hotbeds of opportunity, like Latin America as an example. We're seeing really strong attendance from all of those triggers. We are flying way ahead of where we are usually versus the 24 show by about 50%.
All right, okay.
Caveat would be that never translates to 50% more than London. It just doesn't. All it means really is that it's a really good indicator that people are looking at getting their kind of plans and travel trips sorted earlier than perhaps normal on a cycle. And that's to be expected because it is new and people are coming to Barcelona for the first time. But again, for in terms of an internal metric, it's really strong. It shows that there is that real advocacy, there's that interest, and also a trend in an event. If you start up from a registration perspective, ordinarily 9 times out of 10 you finish up. If you start down, it's really hard to change that trajectory. So everything points to a really successful event, and we're seeing some new bits actually really interesting. Attendance from the UAE is up dramatically. Attendance from India is up dramatically.
Okay.
And then all the other KPIs are kind of fairly static where we would expect them to be. So yeah, it's really fascinating now to see how all that comes together. But really proud to say that the UK is remaining strong. Really keen for that, and then we're seeing that the opportunities elsewhere, as mentioned.
You've said beforehand that you've got a 5-year vision for the show to kind of hit 100,000 visitors. On that basis, where do you see, you said about the UAE and India, where do you see that audience coming from? Is that kind of sector bias or is that kind of geography?
Yeah, it's a combination of two, really. I think, look, we position ourselves at 100,000 as a figure to work with. But for us, volume is a good metric. And when you're in events, people tend to get a bit fixated by volume. But for us, the quality is far more important than the volume, although we strive to get both. Because it's a great sign of a healthy industry, but also a great sign from Clarion's perspective that we're being successful in driving new business, and from our exhibitor perspective that there's opportunity to be had. So we set ourselves on that goal. I think if you look at the trajectory of post-COVID, where we sort of finally made that mark into the 40,000 realm, and then 50 last year, and then 55, could be 60 this year. Let's see. We're on that trajectory. But to answer your question specifically, yeah, I think definitely in terms of geography, we're seeing obviously a big opportunity opening up in South America, and we're working hard in our strategy to deepen our relationship in those spaces. And the cultural links from Spain to LATAM is really helping drive that. So we're going to see a big bumper attendance from Latin America. Same as I said across wider Europe, and then those other regions. So that will drive organic buyers, I think, across the existing profile of ICE, but also because now we're in Europe, a lot of our customer base are extending their product offering. So there's a lot more street market orientated product being shown at ICE this year, which again is opening up to a whole new set of customer groups. So it really will be a mix. We're expecting a kind of a new expansion in customer groups because of new products that are being showcased, but equally across new areas that we're hoping Barcelona opens up to. So street market's definitely having a big impact this year, but as will be over the next couple of years, more customers that we're generating in that sort of wider tech industry as the industry and the event kind of evolves to meet those needs, really.
Okay. One thing we haven't really discussed too much about, but I want to touch upon it a little bit, was that obviously ICE was driven. The move to Barcelona driven by exhibitors, while IGB affiliates, the majority of those guys want to actually stay put in London. What's what's been the impact on that event, and how has the move kind of affected the IGB affiliate side? Am I right in saying it's actually dropped today as well, Stuart? Has there been a shortening of that event for this year?
No.
No.
Still open 2 of the 3 days of the
Okay.
ice week. We did explore trying to actually migrate across all 3, but I think for the first year operationally, we were just nervous around overcommitting ourselves on that. And actually speaking to the affiliate communities, a lot of them like actually to use that day of ice for some kind of additional business opportunities themselves. So we've kept it at those 2 days, but yeah, still open the same amount of time as it always has done. Um, like your comments around them wanting to stay in Barcelona was very specific around the process that we ran when we asked them as part of our advisory board group. But I think once the decision was made, that almost drifted away. It was a sort of a non-starter from then. They were very keen to say, okay, that's what's happening. We're on board. We're going for it. And you look at affiliate this year, it's definitely, grown, I think about 25% from the London show in terms of space. And the level of creativity that we're seeing coming through. So every single metric, anecdotal and kind of stuff that we would track, both commercial and non-commercial in Clarion, suggests that they're out in full force. And I think they're also enjoying the opportunities that Barcelona presents that London perhaps hasn't, or is certainly a fresh opportunity. So no, that show is in really fine form. It's taking over the entirety of Hall 1. It's sold out, and we have a waiting list for that show. So we're already starting to plan what it looks like for 26, and that will likely mean that it migrates to an even bigger part of the wider Fira venue. So no, very very strong position.
Speaking of which, ICE occupied, is it around 100,000 square meters of Excel? ICE Barcelona, I think you said 120,000 at the last count. So you've increased it, obviously an easy one, 20%. But you had interest from other exhibitors, and you've mentioned there about affiliates selling out, and you could have expanded the 2025 event. I think that you're waiting until 2026 to do that and move into an additional hall. Why not expand this year, Stuart? What's your kind of philosophy and thinking behind that?
Yeah, no. So all those numbers are correct. And another thing to point out, which we do at Clarion, is when we describe those numbers, those space numbers, we don't include additional space that's not being used by ICE. We don't include peripheral social areas. We don't include the avenues. We don't include the foyers. We don't include any of those other areas, which you quite often see other organisers do. So if we did do that, then it's a considerably much greater take up of those square meters. So we keep ours very specific down to exhibition halls, and our customers taking those meters. So yeah, that is it. But it's big growth, and we could have definitely expanded beyond that. In fact, the 26 show is already being drawn, as you said, which is giving us more space, or our customers more space to grow, because that's what they've been asking for. But I think I was very, very keen for the first edition on a new floor plan in a new city to make sure that we don't over exert ourselves, so that orientation becomes a greater challenge, and that the crowd density is different to what we've experienced in London. I think London, I'd like to think, sits totally independently as a gaming trade show, outside of our other products, obviously, IGB Live kind of on a slightly smaller scale, but it really does. We had 20,000 people through the doors in about 90 minutes in the 24 show. And that creates a buzz and a feeling that you can't experience elsewhere. Not a feeling that continues all the way throughout the day. So very important for us to make sure that we replicate that in Barcelona, that we start the show feeling with loads of energy, with loads of busyness. And you grow the show too quick, and we've seen that happen with shows many a times. You grow the show too quick, then what you end up is diluting some of that energy. And it's amazing. There's a real science behind that energy in a trade show, and what it translates to in terms of, the longevity of people's stay, their kind of their energy to kind of kick on and visit more customer groups.
Okay.
So all that science really sits behind that decision making.
So it's
And
more than just the optics of how it looks busy. There's actual kind of science in terms of how the migration of people throughout the show actually affects the actual performance of
yeah,
exhibitors as well.
yeah, absolutely. And we're really conscious of that. And we're doing so much additional research on the back of that for the Barcelona show. We've got There'll be obviously lots of tech in there that's heat mapping, showing where people are migrating around the venue on certain times, their dwell time on stands, and all that level of insight just really helps us give us the confidence to know the best ways to provide more space. And like our ambition as a business is not to grow for growth's sake, because that's against our vision of being partners to the industry. This is around providing a place or more opportunity for our customers to grow, to meet their needs. And we're definitely hearing from them that they want that, which is exciting, because then that is good for us as a business, but done in the right way. And that sustainable growth really allows us to build a show that really kind of delivers that experience. So I think we will all learn a lot as we get to the show in Barcelona and see how all that tracks. But there'll be parts of it that we go, okay, we want to finesse that a little bit. Maybe we want to move something slightly in a different way than we thought, because of what we learned from some human behavior. But we're planning as much as we can. We've obviously got huge amounts of experience in that field. And also we've been to the Barcelona venue 7-8 times in the last 18 months to see how other big trade shows operate, see how the customer flow works. So loads of behind the scenes work to get us to this point where we feel comfortable and confident that the experience is going to be a great one, both for attendees and for packing those exhibitor stands.
Okay. One of the stated aims, obviously, of the relocation was to make the event more affordable for exhibitors and for visitors. Do you think ICE Barcelona 2025 will achieve that?
I think it's probably, well, yes and no. I think it's probably a little bit early to say, because we haven't done that research yet for our customers, and I can't speak on their behalf. But what I can say is there's some key data that would support the fact that has saved money. I'll give you one key stat. So the hotels, which were a big driving force behind our customers' angst around London, when we did all the research prior to the migration project, the average room night costs were in and around £350 per night during the key show days. Now, the average cost in the hotels booked through B Network, our hotel partner, are €205. So already we've seen €150, or probably more than that, and pounds to euros, but €150 or so cheaper per night in Barcelona. And that being a fairly considerable part of an exhibitor's cost base. So there you've seen a big dramatic decrease. A lot of the big customer costs from a venue perspective were all negotiated really hard, because they told us those were the areas that they were worried about. So that was part of our negotiations. So there's definitely been some savings. I think what has been interesting, though, is that quite a lot of the customers that had the bigger scale ones that perhaps would have benefited more from some of those savings have reinvested it in the show. And they reinvested it in either taking more space. And we talked a lot about our advisory board, which is 22 customers. They make up about 45% of the floor plan. I think you'll know what those kind of big customers would be in that list. But 75% of those customers have taken more space than they did in London. And that again was one of the rationales behind the move, because they did want more space and they've been asking for it for years, and we couldn't give them more space. And as much as Excel has grown with its new phasing, we would have, a year or two in, we would have had the same problem again. So at least with Barcelona, we're future-proof now, really, because that venue's considerably bigger. So yeah, they're investing in more space. We know they're investing in stand design and creativity and experience, because we're seeing the designs come through and they are mind-blowingly brilliant. And we know that they are doing some really cool things around the city with, parties and dinners. And so I think our customers wanted not necessarily to save money, but they wanted better value. And I'm confident that Barcelona will get them better value.
Okay, kind of, yeah. Thorough answer to the question. I'm putting location to one side for a second. What are the biggest changes? I know you had when we've spoken about this in the past, but what the customer journey at the show, the visitor actually to ICE Barcelona. Could you explain a little bit of you mentioned this before, festivalization and how it applies to Barcelona?
Yeah, so I think having access to a new canvas really with a new venue has been really exciting for us, because ICE had been wall-bound really for quite some years, and trying to make any real physical change to a floor plan once our exhibitors had kind of laid deep roots was quite challenging. You'd have to upset the apple cart quite a bit and be really confident on why you were doing that to have to make those changes. So Barcelona has allowed us to revisit all of that and not make decisions without our customers buying, but really work with them to say, look, if you're reporting that ICE is really successful for you and your number one platform to as a trade show, how can we make it even better, and what would it need to be? And I'm fairly confident that for a good proportion of our customers, we've been able to deliver those things for them in terms of either just kind of creating a new sort of sector zone of the show, which is the first time we've done that for ICE. So obviously Hall 1 is affiliate, Hall 2 is brands that have a predominant focus in online gaming. Hall 3 is brands that have a predominant focus in the land-based industry. And then Halls 4 and 5 are brands that have a predominant focus in either MarTech or FinTech or esports or sports betting and payments, everything around that technology evolution. I say leading with, because quite a lot of those companies now, way more than they used to, are much more omni-channel. So they're operating across those different disciplines, but we've gone with the lead product to make it a bit easier. So that's helped, I think, will have helped some of the orientation in how we've laid out the show. And then I think just the fact that we've got new indoor and outdoor spaces in the venue. I think, clearly it's not hard to imagine slightly better weather in Barcelona in January than it was in London in February. And certainly seeing on average over the last 5-6 years that it's sort of 15 degrees and fairly sunny during the ICE dates. Whereas in London, you might get some beautiful sun, but it's sort of 2 or 3 degrees.
You're going to lock that in? Are you going to make a prediction on that, Stuart?
Oh God, no, absolutely not. That is something that absolutely in our uncontrollable bucket. But we do hope that, I'm a big believer, if you put enough hard work into things, then you tend to get a little bit of luck. So I'm hoping that's something we'll get. I know there's plenty of trade shows that get that bad weather, and we share the pain, because it's just really unfortunate, and it takes a bit of gloss off the experience. But we're hoping that the weather will be good. But the venue's big enough that it doesn't rely on those things. But we've got networking spaces that are kind of indoor outdoors, so I think that'll be fun. We're working with brands to create something a little bit different in terms of how we sew everything together. Lots more kind of creative experiences on site as well than we've done before. So just a really, really different and vibrant way to navigate the show as well versus Excel. So I think it's going to be more of a discovery. And then we're doing things in the city. So Day Zero, which is our Sunday proposition, we've taken over the entirety of the timeout market, central Barcelona. It's a great venue. It's going to be a place where everyone's welcome. So if you're flying in on the Sunday, you get yourself down there, you can pick up your badge. You can have a couple of comp drinks, and then there's some great F&B outlets, and the networking will start earlier, and there's some really good opportunity there. So we're bringing ICE experience into the city as well as the venue, which is a first really for ICE.
You mentioned sectorizing the industries within ICE. Was there a fundamental reason for that, other than from the visitor's perspective about navigating the show? Was there some other reason for doing that? And as you expand and you put more halls on, I'm just wondering, how do you continue to sectorize as you add obviously more halls in? How do you spread everyone around and keep a hall dedicated to kind of one industry when you're expanding?
Yeah, that is hard. That is hard because clearly, I'll give you an example of Hall 3, which is predominantly land-based exhibitors. Now, obviously, we're seeing brands in that space wanting to continue to grow. I talked about the street market before. Quite a lot of the European brands are wanting to bring more street machines. So naturally, for the 26 show, we're having to spill out of Hall 3 into another location. So it will take some artistic and poetic license for us to sort of see how that bleeds together. But I still think, even if Hall 3, which is a long hall shape like this, if it ends up becoming an L shape, and we can design it accordingly, it still means that from a user journey perspective, it's going to be easier for you to do that. And if you compare to your experience at the last ICE, if you wanted to see one of the two big European suppliers of land-based equipment, you had to go all the way to one far corner of South Halls, and then grab your bag and your bits and bobs, and then go all the way to the other side of Excel. That wasn't a particularly effective experience. And if you miss a meeting or you're waiting for someone, then you've got to trek all the way back. So versus the learning experience, I think it's a marked improvement. But going back to your original question on concern with the rationale, part of the rationale was when talking a lot to our customer group, more our operators and the buyers and the attendees. A lot of them were saying, "Gosh, you're growing ice, but ice is already too big." So I'm kind of leading on that question to say, well, what do you mean by too big? Is it just the sense that it is an exhausting proposition? And I get that because it's a big trade show. And I guess my example before was what they meant. So I think by positioning everything in one hall or in slightly smaller configurations rather than spread out across the entirety of the floor plan, it means that if you are interested in one specific sector, then you are going to have probably a slightly more intimate experience than you had in London, even though the show's 20% bigger. So your time will be better spent, your feet will be less sore, and hopefully it'll be more effective overall for you. Obviously, unlike yourselves, who will need to get to every corner, I know.
Yeah, well, I think my record's 9 miles. That's a one ice, but
I got a feeling you might break that.
well, I suppose for most visitors, though, it's going to feel that it's a bigger event, but a more concentrated experience, I guess, is what you're aiming for that. One of the things about that particular thing, and you've introduced, obviously you've got the World Gaming Forum, you've got the Casino and Leaders Conference. So the conferences that have always been at other trade events, ICE has never totally focused on conferences before. It feels like you're leaning into it more this time. And there's always that juxtaposition between the exhibitors having visitors taken from the floor to conferences as opposed to having the volume at the show. And you see this a lot of times at other events in which it feels light at certain times because there's a big conference event on. What's your feeling on that, Stuart, in that terms of that balance between getting the conference program and the exhibition floor kind of volume right?
Yeah, no, I certainly our model is not about big staging and big kind of I don't know, general types of speakers to take people off the show floor. I know they're great at getting column inches and look good on promotional emails, but unless they add a very specific value to our customer groups, then it just doesn't hit the cutting room. It hits the cutting room floor, I guess, once we get rid of that edit. So the whole purpose of which was formerly Vox, but now has changed to World Gaming Forum, is the fact that we really distill that content down to make sure that it sits in a very original place versus other content you can get at all the other trade shows that exist in gaming, but also really has that focus on a very high level, that C-level founder director sort of level. We make sure that the content is driven for them, because our experience over the last decade, 15 years or so, is to say that if you can supplement a high level conference on top of the business that's being done at the trade show, it means you've got a better chance of securing the time of those C-level and founder operators that really tend to fly into shows for a day, half a day or whatever. But if you can add value to their experience and pull them together, then that is a really sort of valuable component part. And then obviously a lot of our conference sits around the regulatory landscape, the political landscape. So I think ICE really is the only event out there that brings all of the component parts of the industry together. And these policymakers, these decision makers that really direct the future of the industry, we're so proud that they use ICE for that conversation. They use ICE for those decisive moments. So all of our work around redesigning that conference is with all of those things in mind, and making sure that we distill this content down that adds real value to those cohort. And, the 55,000 people that come to ICE, about 1,500 engage with the content, which is perfect for us. It's a really small room, but it's super high level. The networking that happens in there is probably like nowhere else, I would say. So even if you don't engage in the content or a masterclass or a workshop or whatever it is, the level of networking over those 3 days in the kind of green room, I should call it, is really formidable. So it's all of those component parts that drive that. And yeah, we're really keen not to make sure that it doesn't take any energy away from the trade show, because ICE is the place where the world of gaming goes to business. That's our strap line. But that strap line was driven out of customer interviews. It's not just something that a cool marketing team came up with. This was really a kind of engagement with the customers, like, what does ICE mean for you? And is that business being done? whether it's a launch product, which we know there's thousands of products that get launched at ICE, or even if it's not a launch product, let's say they saw it at G2E a few months prior. This is the stage now where those orders get taken. It's transactional show. When we talk to our customers, a word that they use a lot is critical. And we're proud of making sure that ICE has a level of criticality about it. So whether you're launching product, selling product, or engaging in high-level thought leadership, conference content, and networking, they're really, you just can't be missed. So we've had some challenges this year because we sort of lost that one conference day on the Monday. But we've just adjusted our timings a little bit to make some of the networking and conference elements a little shorter, just so it doesn't contradict some of the trade show. But what we're hearing and seeing so far on registration patterns is that if you originally come on the Monday and then hit the trade show on the Tuesday, you're still following the same pattern. You're just doing the conference on the Monday and hitting the trade show on the Tuesday and the Wednesday. So we don't believe it's going to dilute the opportunity for everyone.
Okay. One of the questions that's, after the whole debate about London and Barcelona, the second biggest question that we're asked by exhibitors, I'm sure you're aware of it as well, but you did mention, I think, in July when you brought the press out to Barcelona and did the kind of the run around the show and the event, was taking the show from 3 days to 4 days, and it splits so many people 50-50 down the middle as to whether they think it's a great idea, whether they hate the idea. Is that still part of the 5-year plan, Stuart? And what's been your feedback about that?
It's something that we've definitely explored, but like anything, it's our customers that will make that decision, our advisory board customers and our wider customer group. If after the next couple of editions of ICE, there is, we're reaching that 100,000 buyer base, then I would say there's probably a good rationale or reasoning for us to look at that and go, right, okay, this is what we propose. We propose there's a growing industry and ICE is growing. So does having an additional trading day make sense for everybody? We're already there. Everyone's spent huge sums of money to be there, to build that infrastructure. Is another 10 hours of sales or networking opportunity an added value and an added benefit to anyone? I haven't formally asked that question to our customers yet. So I can't give you an answer to whether they would go for it or where they wouldn't go for it. My point with the press really is to kind of talk about a vision, which is, we do believe this event is now on a different trajectory than it was in London. We do believe the industry across the main part is in a really strong position and is evolving at an incredible pace. And ICE really is a reflection of that. So as we progress over the next couple of editions, I genuinely believe it'll be something that we propose. And if our customers say, yeah, great idea, we want it, then we'll do it. If they say, no, actually 3 days is plenty, then we won't. It's as simple as that.
And am I right in thinking the show hours have changed a bit as well?
Yeah, we've fluctuated, trying to explore an additional hour on the Monday, which is driven really from the fact that being on a Monday now, not a Tuesday, there's some level of expectation that people are flying in on the Monday morning. Which might mean that the crowd flow is slightly different to we had in London. So we didn't want to dilute the opportunity to allow people to continue their business. But in truth, London's been open for a same level of time. We've just probably not publicised it as well. All we want to make sure is that if you're at the event on the Monday and you've still got business to be done, you're not going to be kicked out. We'll keep those conversations going. But that said, we're equally sensitive that, after hours at ICE is also really important. There is a ton of events. There's an awards on the Monday that we sponsor, actually, the Casino Awards. We're proud to sponsor that. That takes place the Monday. We know a lot of our clients and customers have pre-organized dinners. So, we're just trying to get that balance between making sure that we don't lose an opportunity for all our customers, but also not be problematic that it disrupts their evening agendas.
Right. Okay. So you're not going to end the Spanish kind of siesta midday, extend till 8 p.m. type scenario.
I think if you have not talking experience, but if you have a siesta midway through ICE, you're probably not waking up until the next day.
Committed.
You keep going, haven't you? I think.
Right. And in terms of the shows, you mentioned about growing in South America. You mentioned about street markets. Is your current portfolio? I'm thinking about this size and the scale of, you got IGB Live coming up, and that's the switch to London. but also obviously you have ICE and IGB affiliates. Is there any more room for expansion in that? Do you see the portfolio growing over the next 5 years as part of that plan? Sure. Or are you at this point content with what you have, and how you grow it is by feeding into those events as opposed to expanding into others?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question. We definitely made conscious decisions pre-COVID and then during COVID to consolidate where we focus our efforts. And the rationale behind that was do less things much better and deliver better value and experience for our customers. And I think internally, from our perspective, it definitely feels as if we've achieved that. The scale of growth across all our products, affiliate, ICE, and IGB Live, has been exponential versus how they were before. I think products in terms of our net promoter scores and our customer satisfaction scores are way ahead of any other event that sits out there in gaming and non-gaming. Specifically IGB Live, actually, which is a great case study, I think, because of its size and scale, and it's not quite so overwhelming, but that sits in the top 5% of trade shows ever in terms of customer satisfaction. So all of our strategy at that time has definitely served us well. The shows have grown, ICE 20% this year, affiliates similarly 20%. So we're in a very, very strong position. We're very comfortable with that. We believe that we're doing things better now than we were doing 5 years ago, for sure. But that said, partners to the industry is our wake-up call. So if there's more opportunities out there in regions or countries that our customers are not feeling they're being either represented in or well represented in, then we're definitely going to explore it. There is definitely a couple of projects that we're looking at. Can't really say more than that at this stage, but it is definitely more in our mindset now to think, okay, where are some of those new locations or new opportunities that we can try and support our industry with? We don't have much of an interest in putting out an event or proposition where there's plenty of events already. It's just nobody needs that. We hear that all the time from our customers. They don't want more events. But if there's new opportunities that are really original, or a different way of putting an opportunity out there for our customers, and we share it with them and they like it, then we do it. It's as simple as that. So we're in that mindset now, but it's certainly not been on our mindset the last couple of years because, migrating these shows from London, doing that whole bid process, then migration, and then Amsterdam to London has been a huge amount of work. So that's been our prime focus to make sure we deliver on that. But yeah, we do have some sidelines that we're exploring.
Okay, I'll look forward to having a chat to you both at the show, but also before IGB Live kind of rolls around. I hope you have an enjoyable, relaxing Christmas because, it's. I think having the show in February was always enough of a gap. Taking into January, it just feels like this big looming monster that's going to appear after the new year. So appreciate any time you have the show to stop by and have a chat. But Stuart, thank you very much for updating us about everything you've got going on right now, which is a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, no, I think we're all conscious of that. I think everybody, myself included, we definitely need to switch off a little bit over Christmas. Our customers need it. They're telling us all the time. My teams need it. I need it. I think we all need that moment, but it's just now cramming as much in as we can. So when we finish up those last few days before Christmas, we can switch off a little bit. I think depending on which department you're working in and organising ICE, I think if you're operating in operations, you probably have a bit more of a challenge for that because it's really tight now to get everything over the line. I think from a marketing perspective, we're in a very strong position for registration. So you'll just keep an eye on seeing how those things tick through. But yeah, it's important that we all try and get a bit of a rest and a break because, when we all back in January, it's going to be all full steam ahead, and I look forward to it. But thanks for having me on. Appreciate it, Lewis.
Appreciate it, Stuart. I'll see you shortly. Thanks a lot. Bye. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you want to watch more, why not subscribe to our channel? Just click here.